My name's Charles Edward Thompson, Jr. All my friends call me Chuck. I lived in the St. Cloud Kissimmee community for 34 years. I'm originally from Appalachia, Kentucky. Poor boy out of Kentucky, uneducated, no high school. I joined the service in 1970. Every generation of my family has been to war, all the way back. And one of my uncles has the history of our family all the way to the Civil War. My generation, only two of us went. My cousin in Indiana is 2 years older than me, and he's dying now of multiple diseases and cancer. He went to Vietnam and spent 2 years in artillery. I went to Vietnam and did a little of everything from security to police to intelligence, counterintelligence, mechanic, motor sergeant, supply sergeant, first sergeant. I took units apart, put them back together. I was in the field on search and destroy missions. I spent 16 years total in the military. The reason I stayed in was to train our next generation of soldiers. I felt after Vietnam that they were going to need it. I had guys over there from World War II and Korea that kept me alive, taught me the ropes, and I felt that it was necessary for me to do my part to train the next generation of soldiers, or they'd be walking into a blind spot. So I stayed in. I belonged to just about every kind of unit you can imagine in the Army. And I transferred to the Air Force to get my college degrees. The Army at that time didn't offer anything but a warrant program, and they had suspended that. My battalion and brigade commander had already okayed me to go to warrant from non-commissioned officer, but when they did the suspension, I had no way to get education, so I transferred to the Army. The Air Force. In the Air Force, I was tasked with helping to build a Strategic Air Command wing, and 50 of us did that. 50 original personnel put together an A wing in Homestead Air Force Base and a B wing in Texas. We were First Strike A. That meant that we went out first and that the other Air Force commands stayed here. We were assigned under UN, and the UN and NATO controlled our objectives and our missions. Unlike being in the Army and being in actual combat, the Air Force was quite different. After 7 years, I managed to get 2 degrees, 2 bachelor's degrees, and satisfied that goal. In the meanwhile, I'd started a business in Osceola County. I ran the business for 30 years until 2000, and I had 5 heart attacks. So that retired me from the workload and workforce of the mainstream USA. Not happy about it. I would have liked to have worked until I was 70. I admire people today that are working at 70. They don't necessarily work because they have to, they work because they want to. When I started my business up, I was working 2 jobs, 16 hours a day. I went straight to 20 hours a day. The problems that I had with being in combat in Vietnam, I shoved to the back of my mind. And my mother had told me one time when I got out of the service in 1971, you need to get help. But I didn't. I shoved it to the very back of my mind, and I worked 20 hours a day. Running a business is, of course, it runs you. You don't run it. So when I dropped from 20 hours to 0, I was at a loss to do anything. I'd been a member of the American Legion, AMVETS, and VFW for many years. So I went to to state, got qualified as a veteran service officer, which I am now, state certified veteran service officer. I took the national training and became a national service officer. The only thing is I don't get paid. No reimbursements. I do it all because it needs to be done. The veterans need help. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to look to. The wives after the veterans pass need help. The veterans' children need educational benefits. I brief everybody. I take them into my home. I give them a 2-hour sit down. We fill out all the paperwork. I hand carry them from the beginning of their case all the way through the finish of their case. Anywhere from a year to 4 years, I've worked on cases for veterans and spouses and children. I do that today. I feel that this community and my government and my country has given me the opportunity for education, advancement, a comfortable life. I've given to my family in Appalachia, Kentucky, of course, which is the poorest area in the United States, the money and support that I could over the years, and I felt God gave me the wherewithal with the business and the chance to get a better education to help my family and my friends. I feel that the community here has done so much for me that I'm going to repay them till the day I die. I'm going to stay in the program, be a veteran service officer, and help as many veterans as I possibly can. And God only knows that they need the help. Our government is lacking on the end of telling the veterans what their rights are. The pamphlets are out there, the information is out there, but they don't know which way to go. I'm available 24/7. I've carried veterans to the hospital in the middle of the night. I've taken them down to Tampa from the Orlando area. I've carried them to Orlando for emergency appointments. I take them through enrollment. I explain their rights to them. I give them the books and they can look at them. I tell them their rights as their family goes. I set up the burial programs with the veteran if he's a terminal case. And that's the hardest part, sitting down with a veteran and filling out all the burial forms. And I requested his wife be there so she could be better prepared. This has happened occasion after occasion. 3 of my best friends that I've known over 25 years have died here in Osceola County of cancer. And that was the most difficult time that I've had. I belong to the board. I am a member of the board for the Veterans Tribute Museum. I am also one of the Honor Guard. The Honor Guard of Osceola Veterans Council does the funerals, the flag presentations, 21 gun salute for any veteran's wife that asks for it to be done. I've had a full career. I've been all over the world. The Air Force and Army gave me a free tour. Places I wanted to go, places I asked for assignment. Strategic Air Command unit, they'll go and get up front and personal on the Russian border, or Chinese border, or Korean border, and show off. Make sure that the enemy knows that we have the support to help our troops on the ground. I've been on the ground. I was never so glad to see 1st Cav come in and evac me, oh, I don't know, a dozen times under hot fire. It's a strange feeling when you don't know if that whizzing bullet that's coming by your ear or that burns your side when it cuts through your uniform is going to be over just a little bit farther the next round. I have put off years and years and years of agonizing over the war and God. You have to deal with what you've done through prayer and help from your family. I do see a psychiatrist through VA at this particular time. I've been going for 6 years, and I have a private doctor that is published, world-renowned psychologist, psychiatrist, forensics medicine, and so on and so on. He is an exceptional person, gives me a lot of help. The veterans have to deal with their problems. I'm dealing with my own problems and the veterans' problems and the veterans' family problems. So sometimes it gets a little much. The only thing that I do then is go back to the books and start reading again to try to find a question for the next case that's been filed. Support evidence, medical evidence, anything that I can to help the veterans today. Unfortunately, we don't have the funding that we need. This museum that we're in today is a culmination of memorabilia from the Civil War all the way forward. I have some unique articles here that I have, my personal items from Vietnam that I brought back and donated to the museum, and they're one of a kind. Things that most of the guys threw away and I just threw up in the attic my mother kept. So after years, I brought them in here and posted them as items for the children to learn, for the new generation of veterans to learn. I talk to the veterans here, I talk to the veterans' spouses here, I give them phone numbers for help. We have a hotline for medical needs. We have programs set up for referral to state, national district, or national VFW service officers. I have been a member of the post in St. Cloud, Florida, 3227 VFW for many years, joined in '92. I've been the trustee over there 4 years in a row, the service officer there 3 years in a row, and it's a trying job. I volunteer as much as I can, but my first priority in my life right now are the veterans and their families and this museum. I want to see this museum flourish and grow and become more of a one-of-a-kind, which this is one of a kind. You walk in here and you can look at our history through warfare. It's a proud history. I wouldn't have stayed in 16 years if I had thought that the military wasn't a good thing for the people. Our support of the military now, the VFWs, through the service officers and through different programs, educational programs, grants, veterans in need, homeless veterans, just many of the things that we're involved in. I ended my career on a good note. I simply walked away, working as many hours as I did in my business and working 5 days a week, and then recalled several times. Got to be a little too much for my raising my son. I raised my son by myself, just he and I. So I planned on staying here. My mother and I are purchasing a house in our hometown, and we're going to travel around as snowbirds. We're going to come to Florida in the winter, and we're going back to my hometown in the summer. That'll be this fall. I'll stay in the community. I'll be gone approximately 3 months in the summertime. More than likely, and it's been duly noted, I'll probably be involved with the veterans in Kentucky, in my hometown, and be involved with the veterans down here in what I call my adopted hometown of St. Cloud, Florida. Thank you very much for this interview. That's all I have to say. Thank you.